What's up, Joe 200? Hey, it's October 19th, 2025. It's Sunday, and we are marching along. So you guys have blown past the halfway part of the semester. You have midterm, okay, that is available this week. So my co-instructor, Julia Walsh, has put together, as you can see, a very, very complete study guide. And that's awesome. Okay. And it kind of does an overview of everything that we've done in the semester. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go on to week 9, and it's going to be, if we look back to weeks 1 and 2 when we're looking at the global implications of aging, and we talked a lot about the economic impacts, and we talked a lot about how different countries are dealing with this. And so that's what we're going to go back to today. It'll be a shorter lecture because of that, and but some really cool examples. And there's 3 videos, but the last video in particular in your discussion is put together to look at the economic consequences that you should be thinking about, okay? Because economic boils down to your money and what's going to happen to it and how well you're going to be able to live your lives. All right? Awesome. Okay, so as indicated, we have the midterm that is ongoing this week, okay? If we go into the content area, all right, we'll scroll right in here. You can find the midterm, okay, by looking at right here. It says midterms, okay? And you can see right here, okay? So this one is due by October 26th. Okay, it started October 18th. So it's open for a week, okay? You have exactly 2 hours to complete this 100% multiple choice exam, unless you have OSAS accommodations, okay? And if you have OSAS accommodations, then those accommodations have been entered directly into Brightspace. And so you would have whatever the extended time that the accommodations indicate, okay? Awesome. So that's how it goes. If I was a student, okay, what I would be doing right now, I would hit this right here, okay? And this is the exam and how it all boils up, okay? And then what you do is you would hit Start Quiz, okay? And it would go rock and roll, okay? And as you can see, okay, there's many, many, many questions all right here, okay? And how many questions in total? Well, check that out. There's 60 questions. So you got to be on your game, but this is review for all of you, okay? So when you get done with it, you hit submit, boom, and you're all done, right? So pretty awesome, guys. So it's pretty straightforward stuff. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And I've gone blue screen on you here. So, okay. There. Sorry about that. You know what's the most frustrating thing in all of Brightspace is that the cursor there it is they should make it like dark, not gray. You know, it's beyond lame. So okay, there. I think I got it this time. There it is. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. All right, I get myself out of here. So I'm going to get out of here. Boom. I'm not taking it. I'm going to exit, and that's the way that rolls. That was my view of it as a student. You can also access the midterm exam and all your quizzes by doing this, and you hit quiz is, okay? And it's located right here, okay? So I would go in right here, and it's the same drill, all right? It says continue quiz, because it thinks that I was in there already, okay? And I would hit continue, and I would go on. All right, so that's how that rock and rolls. Okay, but we are more concerned this lecture, me, with making sure. Okay, so it took me back to where I was. Okay, which was the midterms. What's going on here? So we have blown through all this. You guys have learned so much. Again, we talked a lot about the economics, okay? Generational inequities, okay? We're going to home in on that today. You know, we talked about housing, and what a bummer that was, okay? We talked with respect to economics when we were looking at theories of aging. We talked about reproductive aging, the fact that you guys aren't having kids, okay, and what's going down there, okay, and how the period of social development for you to get your jobs, you're having to kick the can down the road, and then suddenly infertility creeps in, and just people are just deciding not to have kids, okay. We talked about the burden, okay, that can be advanced aging, and we honed in on a couple of diseases, and part of that burden was then not only for the person that is experiencing it, but you guys in terms of caring for older family members, older members of your community locally, or just as a society in general, how we're going to pay for this, because we don't just say, okay, we don't like all these old people that cost too much, so let's just get rid of them. So that's not how it works. So there's always going to be a cost, okay? So we're going to look at that in the economics of aging, okay? All righty. And this kind of is a great graphic that, again, Julie found and put in there that looks at some of the economic changes that happen when you get older. And since we have more older people throughout the world and really in developed countries like the United States, like South Korea, like Japan, we have, growing healthcare costs, okay, growing demands for social services, Meals on Wheels, okay, house cleaning, okay. Sometimes it's home health aides because I need just the basic necessities of living at home. I need help. Okay, I need help cooking. I need help cleaning. Okay, and then the worst case scenario, you have kind of like nursing home activities at home where people are helping with your medication, your wound care, and things like that. Or we transfer over to the societal level of social services that is stuff we talked about, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and those type of programs. Okay. There's a workforce issue, okay? So we have this huge number of older people, okay? Part of it is they're going to retire out. We need to replace them. You guys aren't having kids, okay? What are we going to do? We talked about immigration, but we're in a real weird time in our country in terms of immigration. So this is a big social experiment. Where are we going to be in 5-10 years in terms of the workforce and what's going to happen, okay? The other part of the workforce is we're living longer. The government's not going to be able to support us forever. So you got to work longer. Okay, so you guys maybe were looking at, hey, I want to retire when I'm 55. I'm 69. Okay, and the reason I'm working is that I'm projecting on my longevity, which we have in my family, and so my 401k is doing pretty good, but I'm worried it's not enough, so I keep working. All right, consumer spending. The more older people we have, you guys spend all the money. You're going out partying, you're getting all new widgets, new phones. I could care less if I have a new phone. Okay, but you got to have all the new good stuff. Okay, so you're age group, okay, and up to you're about 50, you're doing a lot of consumer spending. But when you get into the older age group, there's a lot of us, but we don't drive the economy, okay, because we don't spend as much. All right, so that's what that's all about. Very cool. All right, so we're going to go over at the very end. This is an amazing video, okay? And it gets into the economics, and you definitely have to watch that, okay? And then you're going to comment on that video. And so it's basically, there's no reading. There's 3 videos that you look at here, okay? Let's get into economics. Okay, so like I said, this is going to be a bit of a review. Okay, we've already gone through this. Okay, what we have here is a PDF file. Okay, rather than a link, and that's the best way to go. And then we'll talk about Vitaly. Okay, in how he has helped change the face of America. He is an immigrant. Okay, doing really important jobs, and if it wasn't for Vitaly, my oven right here wouldn't be working. Okay, so he came here from the Ukraine. All right, I'll get into that later. Alrighty, so this is again a bit of a review for you. Okay, so this article has been around for a little while, but it really captures everything, so that's why we still use it. Okay, so this was a 2014 article you see right here in Science Magazine, which is one of the best science-based periodicals that is out there. Okay, so we already know, okay, that there's this transformation in the way the world looks. Okay, so we see that back in the day there was a lot of younger people, and we see as we go 2015 that there's more and more people in this age group, male and females. Always you see that women live longer than men. Okay, that's a huge sociological phenomenon as well in terms of how to deal with that. Okay, alrighty. So what is the driver of this change in the distribution of age groups? Okay, this right here is populations in millions. Okay, alrighty. So and this is again looking not at our country, but it's looking at a global population. That's why we have so many millions. Okay. Um, but you see the distribution, the weighting has changed to a lot more older people. Okay, so what's going on? Okay, so what are the drivers of this change in the way the world looks? Okay, and we already know. You guys are in your 20s. You should have 3, 4 kids already by now. That's the way biology dictates things. Okay, and you're not doing it because it's so hard to make it in this world in terms of getting a really good job professionally, making a good income, being able to get the American dream, blah, 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 blah. And so the period of your development before you just jump into having kids is way, way longer. People are waiting until their 30s. Okay. Alrighty. So there's falling fertility or childbearing. Okay, we've already talked about all those reasons. Okay, what else is happening? Falling mortality. Okay, all the advances in science. I take a statin. My cholesterol was just a little high, so I take one. And what's that going to do? That's going to lower my risk of ever having a heart attack or stroke, and I'm going to live that much longer. Okay, back in the day, there's a good chance I might have a heart attack, and I'd be taken out of the picture in my late 60s or 70s. Okay. Julia, she went over her battle with leukemia, okay? Lymphoma and leukemia. It's called lymphocytic leukemia, okay? Again, when things just spiraled out of control for her, if it wasn't for modern medicine, she would not have gotten to age 60. Okay, but modern medicine has allowed her to fight that battle of cancer. Okay, so this is what happens. Okay, we have falling mortality. Okay, those are just 2 examples. Okay, what are the implications? Okay, the implications. Okay, are big time. And when I highlight this, you'll see it goes over here on this side as well. But big financial implications. Okay, we look at health institutions, whether it be hospital groups, okay, healthcare groups, or insurance, okay, and then big time, okay, in healthcare institutions, we're looking at things like Medicaid and Medicare, and so it's all over the news right now, okay, and it's a big deal, okay, and then we look at other things. So we're going to see changes that are happening in terms of labor productivity, okay. Family intergenerational transfers of income. Okay, people keep living long enough, then there's not as much transfer as income. Maybe I have to tap into the equity of my home. I have to burn through all of my 401k to pay for my assisted living facility or for my nursing. Okay, so that's something to wrap your head around. It didn't used to be that way. Okay. And so again, it talks about increased longevity, decreased fertility, the economics of this. Okay, big concerns that nations are having in terms of providing care. What have they done in the Nordic countries? They just ratcheted up the tax rates to ensure that there is universal healthcare, universal social support for older people, and for childcare. And so we saw that there are these initiatives to increase the amount of fertility. Okay, so in the United States, we are a capitalistic country. Everybody wants to hold on to their money, and they don't want to have this general fund to help everybody else out. Okay, so basically you're on your own kind of thing. All right, so that's a big deal, guys. Okay, so there's big labor market concerns like that, and I've been talking about this. Okay, so we don't have enough young people coming through the system to support businesses. Okay, we need workers to make businesses churn. The solution used to be, well, we're going to get the best and brightest immigrants. Okay, And there are certain labor markets that when you go to college, you really don't want to go out into the fields and pick strawberries or the apple orchards and pick apples and everything that we love. Okay, and so we had other forms of immigration that would support those industries. Okay. We're running into this social wall right now in terms of this because we don't have young people that will do that work, and we're putting up a big barrier for immigration. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. The goal is to get our workers that are not educated, that are citizens, to go out there and do those jobs. Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So again, the solution, this was a 2014 paper, was let's just increase immigration because we don't, in the future, are not going to have enough children, okay, to support the economy. Okay. So we'll see. That may come back in vogue in some day. All right. What else are we going to do? Well, this is what the Nordic countries did. What did they do? Okay. They increased the ability to have maternity/paternity leave. All right. So we're lucky here in the United States if you get a month off, maybe two. Okay. They're getting a year and a half off. Okay. So that's very, very, very supportive. Okay. So this is I'm just like comparing us to globally. Okay. You got to work longer. Okay. So that's the initiative. We've been slowly ratcheting back and looking at how much Social Security you're going to get, okay, when the maximum amount of Social Security payment you can receive, okay? So our retirement age used to be 65, and now it's almost 67, okay? And of course, the old world countries really box themselves in by offering incredible government guaranteed pensions, okay, in places like Italy, Portugal, Spain, France, Switzerland, all these countries at a very early age, sometimes as early as 55. And now they're having economic turmoil because of that. And so then they announce, okay, we're going to push your ability to get the pension system to 60. And then there's riots and protests and things like that because that's not what they were born into. All right. Awesome. Okay. So what is the other thing that we can do? We want you to work longer. Okay. How are you going to work longer? Okay. It's tough out there. Okay. Well, we want you to get rid of frailty and disability. So we want you to eat right. We want you to exercise. We want you to create your own social support network, and we want you to wrap your head around working longer. Get yourself ready for that. And that's what this is all about. Okay. And this is what health insurance companies want as well. We got to reduce our health care costs. Okay. They talk about this a lot in Washington, D.C. Okay. Now, a big, it's not that big part of the budget, okay? But there are many, many, many people out there that really cannot afford to pay the premiums for Medicare, either original Medicare or for Medicare Advantage programs, which are HMOs. These people are living on Social Security only. And because they were low wage earners, very small amounts to Social Security, half of their income may be going towards Medicare costs. Okay. And so that's why we have Medicaid. Okay. It's not only for young people that are having trouble making it economically, but it's a lot for older people. And again, half of our nursing homes, half of the people that are in there are Medicaid patients. So right now the rollback is to reduce Medicaid payments by 20%. It's going to have a huge impact on that industry. All right. Alrighty. This is just comparing the life expectancy if you're healthy or not healthy. The bottom line is, people say that money does not give happiness, but look at what money does. The higher the income you are, the greater the life expectancy you have, the greater the healthy life you have. Okay. So what are we doing looking at here? We're seeing these family structure changes. People live longer. Okay. You're going to have to get in there and work. You're going to expect, since grandma and grandpa are older and longer, we want them to do the babysitting, the childcare, even though they're really old. Okay. So what about that estate? Okay. So mom and dad had all that money, and it's not the coolest thing to think about, but I sure was hoping to inherit some money to kickstart my life. Okay. But people are burning through it. So there's all these problems. Okay. Alrighty, what else do we have? Okay. The delayed life transitions. Okay. So this is what I was talking about with you guys. Okay. So you guys, back in the day, God, if you got a college degree, boom, you had a really good career ahead of you. The high earner out of the blocks, this incredible professional life. And that's not the case anymore. Everybody goes to college, okay? And college has become, for the most part, prep school. Back in the day, okay, I'm talking, 15 to 10 to 5 years ago, before AI, well, the one guarantee is you would just get your bachelor's degree in engineering and computer science. You'd go code, you go work up in Silicon Valley, and you made $500,000, okay? Suddenly, people with that type of skill set are having trouble getting jobs as well. All right. Is any of this fair? Absolutely not. Okay. And there's a big discussion about that. All right. Very cool, guys. So there's your conclusion. All right. And now let's look at some examples of what's going down here of our lives with respect to that article. Like I said, Vitali, okay, he was a lifesaver for me, okay? He did this work, okay? Work that we don't have enough people in our country to do. That's the point of this, okay? So he fixed my oven, and I was able to cook another day, okay? All righty. This is an NPR article. Sadly, NPR is also on the hot seat in terms of our current administration. They were a really, really great news source, funded in part by donations, funded in part by the government. Okay, so this guy's from Laguna Niguel. It's kind of a cool article. It talks about being able to retire. So in this particular case, we had the PDF file, but we also have the URL link to the article. So let's jump right into this. Okay, it was a 2019 article. Okay, all right. So what we see here. Okay, so look at Joe. Okay, he's still going. Okay, Joe's 89. Okay, and he's at the local YMCA leading healthy aging aerobics classes. And he gets paid to do it. All right. So he is living the great life. Okay. And so Joe retired from what he was doing, and he's been doing this for years. Okay. Look, see, for NPR, they need money. Okay. And maybe I'll do that later. Okay. So it goes through a lot of what we already talked about. Okay. The fastest growing group of old people, people over the age of 65. Within there more and more people are having to work, and that's what we're talking about this because of their financial needs. All right. So Joe talks about his stuff, and okay, we're going to get into this in the next couple of weeks. How we're going to self-fund ourselves because we can't rely on the government to fund us. Social Security was never intended for that. Okay, and especially in a modern society. Okay. And so we're going to look at, how well equipped people are, and we're going to train you to put money into your 401ks and to your individual retirement accounts. Okay. So this goes over, some kind of shock and awe that we'll be doing later. The median income, okay, for older Americans, net income, but complete assets is $150,000. That includes the value of their home and everything else. So it's kind of bleak. Okay. All righty. So great job, Bob. So he's doing his thing. Okay. And then they get in here and we look at another person. Okay. So this is Kylie Cohen. Okay. She was a single mom. So she was divorced. She had to raise her child. And she right now is 100% reliant on Social Security and food stamps. Okay, so she was a TV copywriter. Okay, then a children's librarian. There's Kylie. Luckily, she found subsidized housing in the Long Beach Senior Arts Colony. But what she talks about as she goes through here, and as well as Kylie Cohen's neighbor, Veronica Bryant, 70% of her Social Security is spent on rent. Okay. She's left with $245 every month for everything else. That's beyond your monthly Starbucks bill, what you guys do. Okay, so you guys spend more on Starbucks than data. So I didn't spit that out correctly. Okay, so she's in the same situation. Okay, so it's they're buddies. Luckily, they have subsidized housing, but government subsidies pay for that. So where's that going to go? Okay, and now we have another example of somebody who is able, luckily enough, to have this retirement income. Okay. And this is Carrie Eagles. Okay. She's 70 years old. She was a teacher and has a pension. Okay. And she gives back. All right. So she still wants purpose. So she's living a very good life. And she talks all about all the different types of volunteer work she does that really helps her in terms of her aging. All right. So that's what that article is all about. Super cool. All right, guys. And then from there, we take all that in, we go backwards here, and we're going to then apply this to our discussion. Okay. And in our discussion, these are short videos. Okay. These were a little bit older, but they apply to what's going on now. All right. This is just linking to surveys on aging. So if you look at people that study the biology of aging, they have a couple of readouts. Okay, they look at DNA methylation. It's just a tag that switch that goes on and off. And when you get aging, you get a lot of this methylation disappears. Okay, we have the dividing cells. We have the very cap of the chromosome that protects the DNA and allows the dividing cells to divide. They're called telomeres. And they talk about here, the older people are, the shorter the telomeres. And if you're jobless, it accelerates that, and it has, in terms of theory, has dramatic impacts on health. Down here, this was, right after the recession. So this is around 2010. These people were looking for employment, old people, and how tough it is to find a job when you're older. And lastly, this is the one I really want you to check out, okay? And it's 2018, and they really, really portray what is happening. They go through these people's lives in terms of
we are hitting a moment where
financing
the elder
aging.
Boom, it's not a trend. It's actually a whole new way of life for our country.
They're showing automation and how, of course, that's replacing humanity's ability to make money. So they go through a number
64 years old.
of older guys.
Warm up.
And instead of preparing for retirement, shuttling his RV between vacation spots, he drove his rig to North Dakota.
He's still working.
Keenly heard while researching
this is an amazing clips from an amazing movie
cohort of nomadic seniors who are mostly
called
white,
Nomadland.
largely male, but with increasing numbers.
It was an Academy Award-winning movie, and the movie portrayed this present social dilemma. All these RVs are all lived in by older Americans that they're old, broken down RVs. They spent their last penny doing that, and they live out in the middle of nowhere, surviving here, and just hope they have formed a collective where they will send people out and try and get day laborer work. Okay, and it's just contract day laborer work. It's really compelling.
And these nomads have found an extreme solution to dwindling retirement savings and the rising costs of housing and healthcare.
I met people who had lost their small businesses, people who had lost their homes, people who had lost all their savings in the 2008 collapse, people who were never able to put enough away because they were stuck on a low-wage treadmill.
I couldn't afford an apartment on my Social Security. It couldn't happen. You can come out here and eat if you want. Come on. I'd rather have my little...
Go watch this whole movie with you, but it's really amazing. 9.5 minutes long. You have to watch it. Okay. Have your friends watch it. Show it to your parents. All right. It's very, very compelling. And from that, then you go back in and you consider all these issues. Okay. And you then address this. You guys are business majors. Okay. what's going to happen? What do we happen? What are we going to do? Okay. Just consider these 3 videos and where are we going as a society? How are these people that were not lucky enough, that were not skilled enough to have income? How are we going to help them out? Okay. All right, guys. Peace. Do well with your midterms. Do well with your midterm, not only in this class, but all throughout USC. Okay. And we'll see you next time.